Hey, Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. It really means a lot to me. Listen, today I got inspired to do something a little bit different. And, I've been analyzing these biotech companies for a while. I'm a huge fan. But I watched the CEO of Eli Lilly, David Ricks, I believe is his name. And I just took a shot in the dark and emailed him. Hopefully, we could get Eli Lilly to sponsor SOS and all kinds of other things. Maybe get more studies for my site. But what I did was I commended him on, because we already work with Lilly on two trials. So I commended two of their employees in particular who have been helpful. Hopefully, I'll reply back what happened. But it inspired me to think about how to analyze these companies as a site owner or as somebody in charge of business development at a research clinic, because you got to get your name out there and you got to figure out like what's new and when it comes to your therapeutic areas. So I'm going to pick Eli Lilly for one, because this podcast that I heard with him and David Freeberg from the All In podcast, it was like an hour long podcast on Eli Lilly and their studies. And I mean, they're getting into venture capital. I might do like a reaction video to that interview later on today. But I started looking at their pipeline. So I picked Eli Lilly, which is the biggest, or let's say the most valuable pharma company as far as market cap is concerned right now, and a smaller biotech called Nocion Therapeutics that I literally just got today on my radar from my client services, because my site, Yuma Clinical Trials, is a client of DSCS, where we help sites get studies, send them leads, show them what's on the radar. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I analyze a drug company pipeline for potential studies for my site. So I'm going to show you Eli Lilly first, and then I'm going to show you the smaller biotech. So every website's different. You'll see what the smaller biotech actually have. Here I have GlaxoSmithKline that I've been doing some research on, trying to get information on them. So let's start with GSK. So when you click on their um, website, you get like the main website. You got to look at where you want to look at clinical pipeline, clinical development, research. So innovation, in this particular case, you can see what's going on and then the pipeline. But if you want like a more holistic like overview of what's going on with that company, you just click on therapeutic areas and you can see this is all they do: infectious disease, HIV, respiratory, immunology, and oncology. If your site doesn't do any of those, there's no need to continue looking. There's not going to be studies for you. So I just wanted to use Glaxo as an example of another bigger pharma company. The website's slightly different. So now we're going to Eli Lilly. So on Eli Lilly's website, you can see it looks a little bit different than Glaxo's, but basically they all follow the same format. So in this case, again, Lilly's huge, so they have so many approved medicines. But if you click on science, and you always got to look for like, where would the study pipeline be? So in this case, it's science. And then let's look at clinical trials. But again, you can see the disease areas. So you can see Alzheimer's, cancer, then diabetes, immunology, obesity, pain. Now, this is very much up my site's alley, as opposed to GSK. We do have respiratory, and we're trying to get into some vaccine stuff, and we can do pain. I believe they had it as well. But with Lilly, we have basically all of these except cancer. So I can either click on the disease areas, I can click on clinical development pipeline, or I can click on clinical trials. So let's just click on clinical trials and see what happens there. Uh, and it seems like it's more educational. And I haven't done this, by the way, with Lily yet. So I'm doing this brand new, like you would. So this looks like it's more for like study participants. So let's go back because it's not showing me things that I can actually look at. So again, science, let's go clinical development pipeline. It looks like we're going to get somewhere now. Nope, it says no pipeline data supplied. So I'll go back, research and development. Let's see until I can find something. So here, and again, I'm looking at this the first time, believe it or not. I have not looked. I really want obesity studies. So I'm going to go to obesity, learn more about our work in obesity. I mean, Lilly's so huge. They're the biggest company. You can probably spend a long time here just going down the rabbit hole. Here's obesity. It's obviously a lot of patient facing stuff. Let's try to find what's going on. No, I still can't find anything here. So I'm going to try to look. Maybe it's in medicines, current medicines. Maybe it's here. These look like everything that's already on the market. So it's got to be somewhere here in the science. So R&D. And it gives you a timeline of Lilly's history, which is actually really interesting. They're the first ones to mass produce insulin and figure out a way, along with Genentech, to mass produce it. So here in the clinical development pipeline, it's actually nothing. So you got to keep digging around. So when I get into situations like this, again, I've never looked at Lilly's website, but I have looked at thousands of pharmaceutical company and biotech company websites. Investors is a good place because it does show you what's coming up. They're required to show you what they're working on because they are a publicly traded company. So I'm on the individual investors, and what I'm looking for now is like presentations of what's going on. So let me see if I can find under here. Maybe I could find it here, clinical development pipeline for investors. Here we go. Now I found it. So the traditional route, I'm glad I kind of had issues because you're going to have, it's not going to always be smooth sailing for you as well. So you saw I kind of got stuck, but you can find it. Typically, you'll see investors, and this was like kind of a difficult one to find. The other companies, the smaller companies, a little bit easier. So here it's going to show you, and look how many therapeutic areas they have. So let's just go through cardiometabolic health, tirzepatide for sleep apnea. So they have tirzepatide for sleep apnea. It's in regulatory review. Our site was being considered for this study, but I guess we got on too late. Here's some phase 3 stuff. So here's a bunch of phase 3 stuff in their portfolio. Orforglipron is like a big one. What's up, Gracia? They're just doing a live stream. You want to be on? No. Come on in. Oh, wait. Okay. Gracia is here. Matter of fact, she's actually working on a Lilly study. So we'll get back to her soon. Unless you really want to come on. You can. You can come on if you want, or just wait. Okay. Orforglipron is one. So this one's for obesity. There's one for heart disease. There's one for diabetes. Another diabetes. So let's say I wanted the one for obesity. And they have I didn't realize they have this many. So I clicked view more info. And then they have, you can see all the different studies they have. Cardiovascular disease outcomes. They're telling you press releases of what's going on. So if you want to take a deep dive with one of your investigators on the science behind it, you can. This is so I'm familiar with orforglipron. They're actually, he brought it up on the podcast too, the CEO of Lilly. But I'm not familiar with any of these other ones. So lepodisiran, and they're doing, on that podcast they were saying, and I'm going to do a reaction to it, they were doing like 1,000 studies right now. So here's more info on this drug, lepodisiran. It's a small interfering siRNA IP, and he brought this mechanism of action up on the podcast. So I'm gonna do a reaction video to it. Uh, Apo little a, which is a huge part. I think 25% of people that have cardiovascular disease um, end up with that, right? So here's more. Like here's some in the phase 2. These are like you get a good sense for their main products. Here's one that I really want to get for my site, MASH. So tirzepatide for MASH. And with a company like Lilly, it's gonna be tough. Like you're not gonna find someone on LinkedIn necessarily. I mean, you can try to go to LinkedIn and find who's in charge of like cardiometabolic health, and then you can kind of see who they're associated with. It's gonna be a long journey of due diligence for you to find who you need to contact. Your best bet is to contact your sales rep for your PI. So let's say, so in my example, right, I have a cardiologist, I have a neurologist, and I have an internal medicine doc. So let's click on pain because I don't really know anything what they're doing with pain. So let's refresh because something's not working properly here. And let's go to pain. With pain, they have things in phase 3, nothing. Phase 2, they have 2 drugs with pain. So what I would do, let's say I had an oncologist too. I have an oncologist, I have a cardiologist, I have a neurologist, and I have an internal medicine doctor. Each one of them probably has a different sales rep for Eli Lilly. I would get a hold of that person, and I would then ask that person, who is your medical science liaison for the for this territory, for this region? Because I need to get a hold of them. And it's with a company like Lilly, they're very careful about who they partner with. I've done studies with Lilly, and it was not like an overnight thing. It was like a year in the making. They'll send a sales rep, or they'll send a community outreach specialist for your territory to you and treat those people really well. Those are the ones that I messaged Eli Lilly's CEO about by name. I said, this person has been incredible for our site. And I wasn't making it up. Eli Lilly's like the best sponsor I've ever had, that I've ever worked with in 20 years of doing research, as far as paying on time, having a protocol that's not impossible, having resources, like just listening to you, having an ear to the sponsor, even though they use CROs. So none of it was like embellishment, and hopefully I hear back. But this would be the route to go, and the route I'm probably going to go, because I didn't realize they have things going on in pain and in neurology, which, I know I know my neurologist. I have not met their Lilly rep, so I should probably go that route. Contact my neurologist, Lilly rep, sales rep, and then ask that person who is the medical science liaison for this territory. And I'm probably going to do that today. Now, that's a really big pharma. You're not going to get bigger than that one. Here's one that I got today, came on my radar from DSCS, which is my client consulting services. If you need help getting more studies for your site, or negotiating budgets, or you just need a shoulder to cry on for a relatively reasonable monthly fee that's month to month, reach out to me. Yuma Clinical Trials is a client of this company, and Chris Sauber, Julie, and Casey Rosario, a lot of people working behind the scenes to like create a good product. This one came out, and I looked it up, and I reached out to a few people on LinkedIn, and it's a new mechanism of action. So the company is called Nocion Therapeutics, and as you can see, you can tell they're not as big as Lilly, because their website is doesn't have, like, it's not as robust, right? But they still have a pretty cool one. They have pipeline, and then I can see what they have in their pipeline. So here's what they have: pulmonology, so chronic idiopathic cough, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis cough. I applied for these two, meaning I reached out to someone on LinkedIn, because this is not Eli Lilly, this is Nocion Therapeutics, and there's only like 20 people that are probably in charge of this, and I messaged about 5 of them. And I applied or I asked if they need more sites for a few conditions here. And then osteoarthritis, I know we can do. Dermatology, we have a dermatologist. And then we don't have a OBG, and we don't have a GI, and we don't have an ophthalmologist. So I really applied for, or asked, not applied, asked for these indications. And theirs was a lot more straightforward, but you can show your PI. Like, this is especially good for you newer sites or sites with a new PI. You show them this stuff, like, hey, what do you think about nocions that only inhibit sodium channels, inactivated neurons expressing large pore channels? I mean, I don't know what they're going to say, but the point is they're seeing that you're working, they're seeing that you're doing something. And at that point, because to get the first study or the first few studies for a newer PI or a newer specialist, it's going to take some time. So you really want to make sure that they don't lose interest and that they don't think you're not doing anything. So you should show them. And I actually showed my pulmonologist, like I took a screenshot of this and sent it to him, and he replied back to me. What did he say? He just texted me back, actually. He texted me something like, yes, that's something we can do. So they see I'm working, but I'm also at the same time I'm learning. And like, you can look at the mechanism of action of these things. And I don't think enough sites do this. Number one, once your PI start getting some experience, it's easy to get lazy and not really do this, like have a habit of doing this. And my site doesn't have a biz dev person yet, so that's still me. Even though we're using my consulting company to send us leads, you still need to do homework. Somebody at your site needs to follow up and do this. So once a week I try to do this, like, and it actually educates me a little more, especially when they're these smaller biotechs, because then I start looking at the stocks. And as you guys may or may not know, I'm interested in biotech stocks, so I'm thinking of creating a lot more content around that. So then I asked my biotech stock friends, like, well, what do you think about this company? And one of them, not Nocion, but one of them that I already looked at today, I actually asked them about it because it was an obesity one. And I reached out to the people on LinkedIn about getting that study for my site, and they gave me feedback. These biotech people, they're like, yeah, it's not as good as Viking Therapeutics, which is another company in the obesity space. So this stuff, you got to find where your interest lies so that you can be consistent with it. And at some point, when I outsource this to a biz dev person at my site, they're going to have incentives to get us more studies. So just wanted to go through like my process of how to do it old school way. And then again, on the smaller companies, you can just go to LinkedIn and look up that company name and click on people there, and you can find director of clinical operations, vice president of research. Those are probably the people that would have more information about whether they need more sites. Most of the time you're going to get ignored, but if you position your message properly and it doesn't come off as spam, you have a better chance of getting studies. I've gotten studies this way, the old-fashioned way. This is biz dev. The only additional layer of biz dev to this would be going to conferences where these people are. Like, if I really wanted to study, I would find out what conferences these companies are going to, especially the small biotechs, and I would go to those conferences. But that'll be for a biz dev person because I'm wearing many hats right now. Like, subscribe, comment, share, Guru Nation. Good luck with this. Let me know what you think. Have fun too. To me, it's fun. Bye bye.